and welcome to the creaking salt-soaked tables of the Brazen Hydro Pub in Bilgewater. We're your hosts, Ant Groven,
Conquest,
and today we'll be sharing a pint and talking all things Runeterra and beyond. Okay, so last time we did not finish the big bads of Runeterra. So I think we start off, we just close that off. Let's close the book on that and get a couple more done, because we talked about Aurelian Soul, right? Big cosmic dragon, big threat.
Of course, big threat.
We talked about the Watchers. I think that's where we stopped. I don't know if we talked about anyone. Did we talk about anyone?
Did we really not talk about anyone else? I mean, like, those are the two obvious ones, right? I mean, I guess Aurelian Soul even like is not the most obvious, but yeah, I guess we really. I mean, like, we tried focusing on some like smaller bads here and there, but even then, yeah, like there's not. Yeah, I guess we only talked about those two, huh?
I think we only talked about those two, but there are other big bads. So we have. So there's a character, a lot of people are familiar with him, don't actually know his backstory. It's Mordekaiser, the Iron Revenant.
Oh, I don't know
Mordekaiser.
Who the heck is that?
So we have Death Threat in the Shadow Isles. We'll talk about him later. There's Death from the Shadow Isles. That's not the only death threat that we have on Runeterra. So Mordekaiser, the Iron Revenant, he's from the land that we now know today as Noxus. That was back when they were called Noxie. And he was the king. Like, this guy was the ruler. Picture Genghis Khan. That's the kind of guy he was, like, completely dominated the entire area.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Eventually he dies and he's unhappy with the afterlife. He's like, well, this is stupid. Like, I'm just kind of in this nothing space and I expected more.
Yeah.
And this guy wanted like Valhalla for himself. That's what he thought he deserved. And so he gets pissed and basically he refuses to pass on. Just from his sheer willpower alone, he refuses to pass on. And eventually these witches get together and they're like, okay, we're going to resummon this guy. And so he basically persuades them, he kind of like manipulates them into resummoning him into this world, but not just as himself, but much more powerful. And that's where he comes back as Mordekaiser, like with this armor and like his will is almost holding together his armor and his form.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah. And that's when he takes over all of the Noxus. Like, he takes over the whole area. It's not called Noxus yet. And he's the one who builds up the Immortal Bastion, which is like the main city in Noxus.
Oh, wow.
And that's where he rules. He dominates over all. Eventually, all the other people in Noxus, who are called Noxie at this time, they band together. All the other Noxie band together, and they take back the Immortal Bastion. They don't take it back. They take it over and kill him, basically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know if they take it over, but basically they overthrow him. He dies.
Yeah, he dies. Like, they probably don't exactly have a next in line to the throne, but he's dead. They don't want him, is what's important.
Yeah, exactly. So they take back they take it back, they kill him. They inherit the Immortal Bastion, which is still the main capital city of Noxus today. But this was actually all part of his plan.
To die?
Yes. His second death was literally a part of his plan, because when he goes back to the afterlife, which was pretty empty when he got there, is now populated with all the people that he killed while on Runeterra. And he dominates all of them. And it raises an immortal dead army of like an immortal army.
Yeah.
And now he used them to build up his own afterworld. Like, he basically runs the afterworld now.
What the heck?
Which we don't know much about, but he basically built it up, and he has his whole immortal army there. And to this day, people fear his return. That he'll find another way to come back permanently with his army and just take over again.
This dude's just a natural born conqueror. You gotta respect his willingness to just constantly feel the urge to enslave people.
Yeah, I think his name was like Shen Zual or something like that. I gotta look up the exact name, but now he is Mordekaiser.
But man, I feel like Noxus or Noxie, like, or like whatever it was back then. Even back then, weren't people still pretty open about like, yeah, you're the strongest, you're in charge.
Yeah.
People must have really hated him.
Yeah.
Like, if of all people, out of all the lands in Runeterra, if Noxus is a place where people are uprising against you, like uniformly, that's on you. That's a problem.
Your character.
Yeah. Like, wow, he must be hated.
I didn't really think about it, but yeah, people didn't really like living under him.
Yeah, which is wild.
Yeah, they were called Noxie,
Hmm.
before all the way up until the Rune Wars. When the Rune Wars happened, they took shelter in the Immortal Bastion. And then when they emerged from the rune, they all survived, and the Immortal Bastion took shelter there. That's when they called themselves Noxus. Like they changed
Oh,
the I to us, yeah.
yeah.
And so before that, they're always called Noxy.
Oh, okay.
That's the big threat. That's the big threat there.
My God. All right. So we don't know much about the afterlife, huh? But we do know there is an afterlife.
It's weird. Like in Ionia, we do see Yone die.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we see him die and him go to the afterlife. He goes to like the spirit realm. There's
Oh,
like demons there and stuff, and
so is
it's
that like
like,
different
but
from where?
I think so because this guy went to the afterlife and he just didn't see anything.
That's true.
But I think maybe like he was almost in purgatory, like he wasn't a good person.
Oh, yeah.
But then why
Or
did
maybe yeah,
everyone
just
else that he killed? But it seemed like he almost went to this place, and then everyone that he killed went to this place.
yeah.
It's
So
kind
it
of
seems
weird.
like it's more like the everyman place. Maybe like if you're attuned with the spirits in that way, you end up
Yeah,
wherever they went in Ionia.
maybe. Yeah, maybe Ionia has like its own little thing.
Yeah. Or just like, yeah, depending on how close you are to people like spirits, I guess.
I
I
hope
imagine
the
it's something like
afterlife
that.
always stays a mystery.
Yeah, me too. That's
Let's
very
never
important.
explore that.
There are some things in the world that should never be they should be there but never explored. I completely agree.
Yep.
And that's a harp about MMOs, right? Is that like eventually you're going to run out of places to explore without making new ones, and you're going to look at places like the afterlife, and you're going to think, "Oh, well that's an obvious place to go, right? We haven't gone there yet." And it's like, "No, don't do it, especially the afterlife, because then all of a sudden you're seeing all these characters who had emotional deaths throughout the course of the MMO, and it's just like, oh, well, that all meant nothing. So you can just go see them now. They're not really dead because they're just there. They just moved.
There's something to be said about every single time there's an expansion, you feel like you have to go somewhere new.
Yeah.
Why is that
Why?
always the case? Why can't we go to like places where, let's say that they start with Demacia, Noxus, and Freljord, right?
Hmm.
And they everywhere else is an expansion, which isn't what I thought, but
Yeah.
let's say that they do that. They just do all of Valorant, maybe Piltover.
Hmm.
And then we go to all the other places. We never go back there for another expansion. Like I
Yeah,
feel like
that's a problem.
you can 100% do another expansion there. Like maybe that's when Mordekaiser comes out, and they
Yeah.
just revamped Noxus like crazy. It's all
Yeah.
updated, like everything's brand new, and that like revitalizes the world. And then you could put something in there like I think World of Warcraft has like those little characters that whatever you can teleport back into the old
Oh
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's perfectly fine. Being able to like go into a different like phase where you're in the older Noxus if you want to quest through there or
Yeah,
something.
because the
Yeah, I'm
story
cool with
technically
that.
still follows that path. So that old Noxus is still there,
Hmm.
like for people that are just starting the game.
Yeah.
But then when you go back to it's the updated version because that's when the expansion hits, like you follow the story just like you can go in Darnassus right now, even though it burns down later.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, because then like also the nice thing about that is that it makes things that are already established can continue to
To
like
be there.
grow
Yeah.
and change.
Yes.
I think that's so
Without completely
insanely
deleting the
important.
old world.
Yeah,
That's not the right move.
exactly.
You don't just delete it. Like you don't take it over like
Yeah.
Cataclysm. You don't
Yeah,
just
yeah.
say,
No,
no,
you don't do
it's
that.
all gone. Mulgore is completely fucked up. No.
Yeah, no, that was a big issue with Cataclysm is that like
Yeah.
like technically things didn't change because the people there are changing. It changed because freaking big dragon showed up and spewed fire everywhere on
Yeah.
the earth.
Yeah. I didn't like that.
There's a big difference, I think.
Compared to this where I'm saying like, okay, you have the start like if you're starting as a Noxus person,
Mm-hmm.
that even though that expansion later completely revamped Noxus, it's still that same starting area and that same
Yeah, yeah,
experience. That doesn't change.
they don't have to. Yeah, they don't have to like rewrite
Yeah,
everything to fit this new progression in the story.
exactly. And there's
I
this second
completely
layer on
agree.
top that you explore later, and that makes the world feel alive.
Agreed. That's so insanely important. I mean, I feel like every MMO is guilty of that, right? Even like Final Fantasy 14, those first three like faction based zones that you're in, like they're really never going to change. I'm not expecting those those big three factions, those big three zones to ever change in Final Fantasy 14 because guess what? You got to go to this new place. And now it's time for these completely new characters to have the spotlight. And it's like, okay, so everything's just kind of,
Gone.
yeah, everything's just kind of in a glass frozen state everywhere else. So it's like, okay, but goddamn, dude, if you're going to spend all this time writing out this whole world, make it change.
Yeah.
Keep it dynamic. Keep it interesting. I don't know why you have to completely stop everything so we can focus on Freljord. No, dude, everything should be moving. Even if it obviously like even if like we have like a Freljord expansion, the focus should obviously be Freljord.
Yeah.
But like still, that doesn't mean you can't have other things going on in response to Freljord, in response to like the Watchers, you know, that's starting to like move and shake the earth and
Yeah.
things like that. We should have some quests in like Demacia of people freaking out, you know,
Armies should be
of like
moving
people
around.
responding. Yeah. Of our armies responding. We should be there helping out, preparing for what's to come.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You just keep everything alive, keep everything moving, because that's something like most MMOs are guilty of. It's a problem.
Yeah. It's just all the way down to like Bilgewater. People are talking like we heard stuff going on in the north.
Yeah.
And like, how do I want to profit off of it? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like how am I going to sell arms to Demacia to defend themselves?
Yeah, dude, like, yeah, there should be fun little like quests and dungeons and all that stuff. They should be cropping up everywhere, not just consolidated in one place. That's like the only place that's moving with time.
Yeah,
You know?
that's like a really big point for me in the MMO that I want to make sure that there's that one game, Ashes of Creation, right? Where
Yeah.
they have like the node system and the world's always changing, and the same
Oh,
thing
yeah.
with the Amazon MMO.
New World. New World does
The
that.
world's always changing.
Yeah.
I think that they may have gone in like a bit too far and a bit too much focused on the actual that's not like enough. I feel like their changes like node system, right? And this node
Yeah.
was controlled by this group, and then it'll be controlled by another group.
Yeah, no, their
But I need,
change is
like-
more like just like structural.
Superficial,
Yeah,
high
it's
level.
very like just plain old. There was a house here. Now it's a different house.
Yeah, they had that back in Crusade with that little place in the beginning in Hellfire. So
Oh yeah, you
control
get to conquer. Yeah.
conquer that main tower. It's Alliance or Horde flags. But I'm
Mhm.
talking about like actual change. Like the world is evolving and changing over time, and you're not taking away anything from the past because the past is still there.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like all right, the main character is the world. All right, not the expansion of the week.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay.
Everything should to some extent stay relevant. Does that mean every single zone needs to be updated every time a new patch drops? Heck no. But anytime something important happens, there should be responses where you are in these older zones having things that you have to do. Because then guess what too? That means you're gonna have people all over Runeterra.
Yeah.
You're not just gonna have people all stuck in freaking Ionia when the Ionia expansion drops.
Yep.
You're going to have new players walking out of Noxus, and it's not going to be an empty freaking field.
Yeah.
I think that's especially for new players, keeping these original zones relevant is going to be insanely important. And they have no reason not to because these zones rock and there's so much they can do with them for years.
Man, this is making me want to tangent really hard into the leveling experience, but I feel like that's gonna be
a video.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a whole episode.
Hunter, let's try to really finish these big bads of Runeterra because I don't want it to bleed over into like.
Oh my god, this is why
big bads of Runeterra.
This is why we only covered 2 big bads last time.
Yeah, this could have kept going.
Yeah, easily.
Okay, so the next big bad I will say is, you ever heard of the Darken?
The Darken.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Okay, so in Shurima.
Is it Shurima? No, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Shurima because we both said Shurima.
No, it's
at the
Shurima.
beginning, right? Oh no,
It's Shurima. We're good.
Oh, okay.
In Shurima, you have the Ascended, right? Who rise up from the Sun Disk.
Yeah.
Which is the power of Aurelian soul being stolen. And he has that on him, shoot him off. They're stealing his power via the Sun Disk to raise up Ascended God Warriors.
Yep.
Now, at this time, back in the past, you have the Shurima and Ishtal, their allies. They work together to build the Sun Disk. And there's Ascended God Warriors in both.
Mm-hmm.
Acathia, bottom area, does not like being ruled by Shurima. They eventually revolt. They're getting their butts kicked because there's Shurima and Ishtal God Warriors.
Ah.
So it's kind of tough to win there.
Yeah.
So they try to release this secret weapon known as the Void.
Oh, wow.
And that backfires pretty badly because the Void comes out, it starts killing. It kills everyone pretty much.
Yeah.
Indiscriminately.
Yeah. I don't think the Void cares very much for either side.
Yep. Zillion actually, so we may actually go back to Acathia one day because Zillion, in an attempt to save as many civilians as he could, innocent people as he could, he tells everyone to come to his tower, and then he removes his tower from time. And so
Oh,
it's stuck in a stasis. The void that was in that was getting into the tower, as well as the people, it's just
all
frozen
frozen.
in time. That
Oh
whole
wow.
tower. But back on the regular timeline, time's flowing normally, and Shurima and Ishtar are struggling to fight the void.
Hmm.
And eventually they win, right? By understanding that the void, you can't really fight it. You just have to let it stagnate. Like without any organic matter or magic, the void just kind of falls into a stasis and eventually falls dormant.
Oh wow.
And so that's the strategy. That's why Shurima literally removes Akathia from the map, because they don't want anyone to go near Akathia. They want it to just be forgotten, never to be explored again, and just like this dead zone. No one go near it, because if you go near it, you'll wake up the void.
Oh man. Okay.
Uh,
Wow. That's
but
terrifying.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna have to go there eventually. We're gonna have to wake him
Mhm.
up.
And then back in Shurima, a little bit after that, Azir tries to ascend. The sun disk falls, and at this point, like and I can go into a lot of details there, but regardless, the sun disk eventually falls,
Mhm.
and the people of Shurima look to the Ascended for guidance, but the Ascended are starting to get like real effed up,
What?
because they just fought a war with the Void,
Oh
and
yeah.
so they're almost like they're like corrupted by what they've seen fighting the
Oh.
Void. They
Oh
start
geez.
losing their minds and going crazy, and they become Darken. And
Oh.
Darken, they start raising like mortal armies to basically conquer the world.
Oh wow.
And
So they
event
darken our aspects that are just
ascended, yeah, they're
corrupted.
ascended. They
Oh
became
okay.
corrupted.
Oh wow. Okay.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh geez.
Mhm.
That's problematic. How long have they been writing this kind of stuff? Where just all these problems are cropping up and we have yet to solve them.
Oh no, there's more. We're not even done yet. But yeah, there's a lot of problems, and so this is kind of so these Darken, right?
Hmm.
They eventually, the aspects of Targon, who are the ones that helped raise up these immortal god warriors in Shurima, because they're the ones that imprisoned Aurelian's soul and started siphoning his power for this future unknown war.
Yeah.
Uh, that they got involved and basically imprisoned all these Darken in their weapons.
Oh.
And that's why you have guys like Cain and Ionia who are wielding this scythe.
Hmm.
And that scythe contains the souls of one of the Darken. And the Darkens hold,
Jeez.
or look at that new character, what's her name? The dog one.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Anyways, yeah,
Yeah.
she's like it's a dog that literally ate the dagger
Oh,
that had
that had
imprisoned one of the
darkened.
Darken.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you have all these Darken blades running around, and they're like basically their whole goal is to kind of, some of them at least, their goal is to basically come back together and reconquer the world.
Oh my god. Okay.
Mhm. So
Wow.
they're trying to find vessels. Like
Mhm.
Kane's guy, the guy that's in his weapon, he's trying to take over Kane, and that'll
Uh,
be his vessel.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of possession going on these days in
Yep.
Runeterra. I've
Mhm.
noticed.
Just a
Jeez.
bit. It has to do a lot with whenever you get to the ascended stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, as we start seeing a lot of possession.
Yep. Whenever you start getting closer to Targon, there tends to be some possession stuff.
Oh man. So like see like this stuff has been like written out for a long time now, I would think, right? Like all this like darkened stuff, which
Oh
is
yeah.
just like crazy to me that they're definitely setting up for, these conflicts to have some resolution eventually.
Yep. A great way to resolute them.
Is
Be in
in
the
yeah, in an
in
MMO.
an MMO fashion. Be great. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So it's crazy that it just feels like everything is culminating to this game. It's so insane to me that they've been really like it feels like they've been thinking about this for a long time now.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, good. Honestly, good. That's how you do it. You gotta have your story, your world all set up way before you're even thinking about an MMO.
That's the crazy thing. That's why I think everyone's went crazy when they announced the Riot MMO, is because the world's already there. The
Yeah.
stories are already
Yeah.
there.
The
The
conflicts are already
conflicts
there.
are
Like
the
these
characters.
unresolved massive threats.
Yeah, are already there.
Yeah.
And at least the ones we know about. I'm not even mentioning all of them. These are just like
Yeah, it's like the
the
major.
biggest ones that I can think of.
Yeah.
But there's definitely others.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So let's move away from the Darken. We got one more,
Mhm.
and he's the one that probably most people are familiar with,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's Viego
Oh,
of the Shadow
absolutely.
Isles.
Yeah. Yeah, Viego's the he may not be the most powerful, but he's the shining star. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. He's the coolest.
He is. His whole story is so well written. It's very fleshed out. It's just there is clearly a lot of focus and love put into Viego as a character in
Yep.
Runeterra.
And I like Viego because he's not really morally gray,
Yeah,
but
he's
at the
evil.
same, yeah, he's evil, but he's not really like he's not really evil for himself, but at the
No.
same time, he's pretty evil. Like he just has a goal and he doesn't care who gets in his way. And sometimes those are like the coolest characters.
Yeah, it feels more like, yeah, like there's no questioning that, you know, the world's better off if we kill this dude.
Yeah, like Batman. Like the Joker's definitely the good guy, and he's trying to save Gotham. Then you have this guy who's just stopping him at every turn because of the collateral damage.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, okay, you know, Batman's definitely not good, but at the same time, like seeing someone so determined to accomplish, and they don't care who gets in their way. Like his
Yeah.
whole goal is to stop all crime in Gotham.
Yeah.
But there's a better way to do it. But his method, right?
Hmm.
It's just he's so committed to it that it's a nice look, even though he's not the good guy.
Yeah, you can't help but like to some extent like root for him. You can't help but like root for the villain,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Just because he's so interesting.
Yeah,
And it feels like Viego more than anything, he's just desperate.
yeah.
You know? You feel that sense of like, oh my god, like this guy has gone absolutely insane trying to achieve this goal that feels absolutely impossible now.
Yeah, and I think we assume too much of the like I always assume that the problem with me is I assume too much that people know what I'm talking about. And I realized because I make Runeterra lore videos, how niche the community is right now, where people that actually know about Runeterra lore. So
Yeah.
we're saying all this stuff, and people might not even know who Viego is. So
That's true.
So Viego came from Camivore, which is an island continent off to the side, doesn't exist on the map today, which is a very blatant show that this map is not complete. It's a completely different continent. It's a part of it. It's not even the complete continent. He lived in Camivore. He was the king there. He had a wife named Isolde. Isolde, an assassin, comes to try to kill Viego. They throw a dagger at him. It hits Isolde. Isolde gets poisoned. She's dying. Viego loses his mind. All right, starts sacrificing the entire kingdom to try to find a cure for Isolde because he loves her so much. Eventually, he discovers the Blessed Isles, which has a water that can cure any ailment. So he takes his army there, goes to the Blessed Isles, and then his wife is dead at this point in his arms.
Oh wow.
And they're like, we wanted to help you, but we literally can't because we don't know what will happen if you put your wife into the blessed waters because she's dead. And that should not be messed with. Like she's dead, it's over.
Yeah, like you're not about to cure death, and we sure as hell aren't about to try.
Yeah. Like if she was just poisoned, she was still alive, 100%, we would let you.
Yeah.
Especially because they saw it as almost like a strategic thing. They wanted to help him because to have an ally like Camivore
Yeah, that would be
is
huge.
very good.
Yeah.
And they felt like if they helped the king of Camivore save his wife, like they would have a permanent ally.
Oh yeah,
And
it'd be
Camivore
pretty
was-
hard to beat that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were powerful at the time. The Camivore was the power in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
They were the what's it called? Lordaeron. Back
Yes,
then.
exactly.
Lordaeron being the old kingdom of Warcraft that
Yeah.
fell at some point long before the MMO ever came out.
Exactly.
That's cool.
And then but then they were like, still, we can't risk it because his wife is dead. And if they put her in the blessed waters, we don't know what's going to happen. So he gets pissed. He says, nothing's going to stop me from saving Isolde. Kills everyone.
Oh wow.
Carries his wife. Kills all these guys in his way. Drops her into the blessed waters. Something crazy happens. Like she comes up as a spectral spirit, basically, instead of as herself.
Mm-hmm.
She was dead. In confusion, rage, and like from being ripped from death, she takes up Viego's sword and just plunges it through his chest. And Viego's sword is a unique sword. It like siphons the soul out of someone.
Oh,
It's not like a regular sword. That's why his summoning it, even though he summons it in death, that's the same thing that happened when he was in life. That
he was
sword
able to just summon it.
yeah, it's like attached to his soul.
Jeez.
It's crazy sword.
Yeah.
But so the sword is trying to suck Viego's soul out. At the same time, the waters are trying to heal Viego at the same time.
Oh
That's what
god.
causes the ruination. It just like freaks out, explodes out all this death magic and freezes everyone on the Shadow Isles in this undeath version. And that's why you had this mist around the Blessed Isles, which no one could enter unless you had this particular item.
Mm-hmm.
Thresh was the one that gave that to the people who found the Blessed Isles to take back to Viego so he can come into the Blessed Isles.
Ah.
This mist became, instead of the Blessed Mist, became the Shadow Isles mist that we see today, which is the Shadow Isles covered in this dark, malevolent mist.
Oh jeez.
Yeah. And if you want to know anything about the Shadow Isles, I got plenty of short stories on it. And then there's also like, you can watch any of my videos on Viego, but that's the gist of Viego. And his whole goal is to rescue Isolde. And every time he's come back before, he basically starts the ruination, releasing all the dead across Runeterra. And his goal is to collect all the souls of Isolde, bring them together, and to resurrect her, which eventually he does in the war with the Sentinels of Light.
Hmm.
which is a group that just like get their whole goal is to fight the Shadow Isles.
Oh yeah.
And then he does, and then they basically kill Isolde, and
Oh.
they trap him in Camivore.
Oh my god.
Yes.
At this point, I feel just as bad for Isolde as I do Viego.
Yeah, well, she wanted to die. Like,
Yeah.
so in the scene, he finally gets all her pieces of her soul together. That's the ruination that goes across all of Runeterra. You can see cinematics of that. He puts her into the lockbox, resurrects her together again, and then she's looking at the Sentinels of Light and basically tells them like they can't kill Viego, but to kill her.
Wow.
And so they do it, and he just starts raging. He's at this point he's back in Camivore because he went through a portal. I know this is a lot, guys. He's
no,
back.
Viego has a lot of story, more story than most characters in Runeterra, like by far.
Yeah, it's hard to even tell all that.
Very
so
fleshed
quickly,
out.
I don't want to take a whole hour.
Yeah.
But he's back in Camivore, and he's frozen in basically a stasis by the Scissor Girl from the Shadow Isles. And so basically right now he's trapped in Camivore with the one person that he literally risked his whole life for and his undeath for, didn't care what happened to it, killed by the Sentinels of Light, who are kind of like the protectors of Runeterra against the Shadow Isles. They come back to the Shadow Isles, and the Shadow Isles isn't actually gone, and Thresh is there, and he's basically like, his whole plan was to culminate all this power from Viego that he was culminating in the ruination, and that's what allows him to go free. And now he's basically free across Runeterra. Viego's trapped in Camivore, and the Shadow Isles are still the Shadow Isles despite Viego being gone.
Oh my god. Well then.
Yeah, that was a lot. I'm sorry.
What's especially sad is that his soul does not want to be resurrected.
Yeah.
And Viego is just in complete denial at this point. To the point where, yeah, like, God, Viego's pure, like, evil at this point, straight up, and you just pity him.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's just insane. He is just a king who has gone mad over the loss of his wife.
That was a very
wild.
long tangent. I did not expect to go on for that long, but Viego's
I mean, I think
story
you summed it up really, really well. Like,
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
you left out the stuff that can be left out and still understand the story. So you did a very good job.
I had to get you from Viego's a king
Yeah.
all the way to him being trapped in Camivore
Yeah.
and the Shadow Isles still being the Shadow Isles. And there's so many turns in that I didn't even cover like 1/10 of the actual story.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, yeah, you can talk about the whole, like, I like Viego and Thresh have
Oh,
like
yeah.
a relationship leading up to Thresh's, plan being revealed and his betrayal of Viego just using him
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
If you want to see a lot of Viego, there's a game, Riot Forge, man.
Riot Forge.
You know my love for Riot Forge.
Oh yeah.
I love Riot Forge. I love every single title that they've come out with. I freaking play every single game twice. There's only one game that I haven't played twice because it takes forever on my second playthrough, and that's the Rune King. But it's such a good game. If you have not played the Rune King from Riot Forge and you want to learn more about Viego and a lot of other characters in Bilgewater, and actually the Freljord, because Braum is there, I recommend that. Rune King is so good. You'll see Viego. It's a great game. Not sponsored.
Riot, sponsor us, please. Do you think that at some point in the MMO,
Imagine why would they even have to sponsor us?
I mean, like as though we would do anything different.
It's like a Ziploc podcast. Why would we need to be sponsored by Ziploc? All we talk about is
Yeah.
Ziploc bags the whole day.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're doing this for free. They don't have to pay us.
Yeah.
But do you think that at some point in the MMO, I think obviously at some point Viego will be freed.
Yeah.
From his
I'm scared of when
encapsulation.
he's freed because now his before it was like, Thanos.
Yeah.
That's how I snapped right when I said
Yeah, I know. You just know. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Thanos' original intentions was pure, right? He wanted to like save the universe and like he only wanted to kill half the people.
Yeah.
It's almost like Viego, his intention was pure for Isolde.
Yeah.
But then when Thanos comes back the second time, he just wants to destroy everything because he's like pissed off.
Yeah.
And that makes him even more dangerous.
Yeah, he's even further off the deep end. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Viego's going to be the same thing.
I worry about if Viego ever comes back, he's going to be like Mordekaiser level.
Jeez. Yeah.
So
I believe it. But do you think he's going to want revenge against Thresh?
Oh, yeah. He never liked, he hated Thresh from like early on because he felt like Thresh was, he failed him at one point. He was supposed to like gather something. I forgot what it was. But yeah, he didn't like Thresh. His right-hand person was Vex, who was a Yordle.
Wow.
And that bothered Thresh, but Thresh was really out for himself the whole time. Thresh doesn't care about Viego. Never cared about his wife Isolde. Like he let her in for his own means. I skipped all that during the story, but there's a lot there.
Yeah, there's a lot between Viego.
But yeah, they're
and
not
Thresh.
buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, all right, Viego never be he better never be redeemed. I'll be pissed if he does have like a redemption arc.
Yeah, no.
But I would love if we have some very, very unsteady alliance with Viego to take out Thresh. I
Oh
think that
yeah.
would be really
Yeah, see,
good.
that'd be cool.
Yeah, where you're
More
just
more
honestly like scared of Viego because you know this guy's unhinged and he wants to kill you right now.
even better. Even better. An unhinged, unsteady alliance with him to fight against Mordekaiser.
Ooh.
Two armies of death clashing against each other. That sounds
Oh my god, dude.
crazy. Like, I love that he's there in stasis.
Mhm.
And it's like almost feels like, why would we ever release him unless
Yeah.
we absolutely need him for something?
Yeah, like we know it's like, okay, he wants to kill us, but he wants to kill this guy even more.
Yeah. And we're,
So we're gonna have to do this because if we don't, we're dead anyways. So
yeah.
might as well try. And
Yes.
we go to Camivore. Oh my god.
See, no, and
Oh,
then
Camivore is also an inevitable zone, right? That's an
that'd be
inevitable
a great
expansion.
segue into Camivore.
Yeah, we do a Camivore expansion that leads to the release of Viego, which
No.
leads into either, Mordecai or
Oh.
Thresh.
Like, yeah, we go to Camivore, and now we know where Viego is, and we end up having to release him for the next expansion
Dude,
because
how do we not think of
wow,
Camivore as an inevitable expansion?
it has to be. Camivore,
Right?
100%
There's
of
no way it
expansion.
doesn't become an expansion.
100%. 100%.
Dude. Oh. So yeah, either way, they better not just make Viego. I'm like, I don't think they will because they're obviously putting way too much effort into Viego
Mhm.
to make him just a one-off like villain of the expansion type deal.
Yeah.
We better not just kill him within an expansion.
Mhm.
We better have some very interesting interactions going on with Viego for multiple expansions. That's what I want out of Viego. They've
Yep.
invested way too much into him. He's such a well-written character. Like, oh, I can't wait to see what they do with him.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think there's a lot of potential there for sure.
He's one of the characters I'm most excited for to see in the Riot MMO. For, like, easily.
I
Bar none,
agree.
he's one of the characters I'm most excited to see.
I agree. Because like we said, they're setting up a lot right now. There's going to be so many threads that are going to be, undone very aggressively and dramatically throughout the MMO. Because that's what this MMO is going to be. It feels like MMO is going to be conclusive to a lot of this stuff,
Yeah.
which will also, lead to these big climactic things like Viego being freed and us fighting Thresh and us fighting Mordecai. Like all this stuff is going to happen in the MMO. I'm fully expecting it at this point.
Yeah, I'm just talking about it gets me excited. But
Me
then,
too.
okay, so while we're talking about the big bads, which we've completed,
Mhm.
I think the list is pretty complete. We didn't cover everyone. I'm sure someone's gonna say there's a character that we missed. I know that, like,
Oh, I'm
but
sure there are.
there's plenty of stuff that we missed.
Mhm.
But now that we covered the big bads, we talk about how we're gonna fight them. And I always feel like I don't want to see Riot reinvent the wheel too much when it comes to this. I know a lot of people are looking for innovation, right? I don't want to see a VR MMO, right? And when it comes,
better not be. I mean, like, will I buy the Oculus Quest 3 for this game? Yeah. Will I be
100%.
happy?
No.
Probably not.
I'll find a way to like hook it up to my computer, display the Oculus Quest screen on my computer, and then I'll play it with a mouse.
There'll be day one add-ons, yeah, for mouse and keyboard support.
100%. I'm fine with there being an option like VR support. That'd be cool.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I would do that for like a day, and I'd be like, that's fun.
Yeah, yeah. But there's other things too that I want to see them kind of keep. One of those things to me is the Holy Trinity. I think that should be maintained. I don't like games where it's like you're whatever you want because whatever weapon you're holding, I'm holding.
Oh yeah, no, I don't like that either. I like when your character is strictly one thing.
Yeah.
Like you are a shaman of the
Yeah.
Freljord.
Yes.
That's who you are. That's your character. I really like that. I don't know. I like the feeling of being specialized.
Yeah.
So then that way, when I am standing in front of a mage of like Demacia or something, I'm like, oh yeah, like we are different peoples.
Yeah.
Different worlds coming together for a common enemy or a
It
common
feels like
threat.
you're the same character. When everyone's the same, you do feel like okay, we're all just the same character.
Yeah. I agree very much. Where it's like, especially if like there's like somebody who's like maxed out in like every single weapon skill, every single class on this character, suddenly I feel way less special. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm like, oh, I thought I was being helpful, but no, I'm just like a little pet for this guy, I guess.
Yeah, no, I want you to pick a class and a race. I think
I
that's
agree.
important.
It helps a lot for RP too, right? Like then you're not just an everything person.
Yeah,
You're a specific type of person in this world. And I think that's really cool.
there's two ways they could go. Where there's humans, there's Vistaya, and there are Yordles. Those are the races in Runeterra. They could definitely go where like you pick your Yordle, and then okay, your class is decided later, and by what you do and how you pick. And I
Mhm.
can see like there is a fantasy to that where you're entering this world, you're just a person, and you find your way towards your class.
Yeah.
But I do feel like you need to have a class, and you shouldn't be able to just hot swap between them. So I kind of like it where you're picking your class up front, where you're choosing what you are, and that's a big decision.
Yeah, definitely. Another problem is that the more fluidity you have between, like, the more choice you have in an MMO, one thing every MMO has this issue. The more choice you have, the less choice you have, right? If everyone can be everything in any combination of things, everyone's going to be the same thing. Everyone's going to be whatever the heck the guide told them.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Homogenization is a big issue in MMOs, and it's just the truth of it that the more freedom you have, the less likely you're actually going to use that freedom. The more likely you're going to do whatever everyone else is doing because you're not going to get invited to the raid otherwise. That's just something I do not want to
100%.
see happen.
Yep.
Right?
That makes perfect sense. I didn't even think about that. That yeah, if you can choose whatever you want to be, there's going to be one healer that's optimal, and everyone's going to have to be that healer. There's gonna be one DPS that's optimal, everyone's going to be that DPS. One tank.
Yeah. And I always see issues like, oh yeah, but like on a casual level, that's not gonna matter, right? You're talking about like 1% stuff. It's like, yeah, but everyone thinks they're the 1%.
Yeah.
All right. That like completely regular, easy level dungeon, people are still going to invite the person that has the optimal setup for a healer.
Yeah, aren't you going to
Right.
try to do there's a
And like,
level of like, okay, I want to have fun, but I also want to do my best.
yeah, because at the end of the day, you have to respect everyone else's time
Yeah.
too, you know?
Yeah, like I may
Everyone
like
else's experience. Like you're in an MMO, so you're gonna be interacting with other people, so you need to kind of pull your weight.
exactly. For example, let's say I want to RP a pirate, and I really like the idea of a peg leg. But if a peg leg reduces my run speed by 50%,
Yeah, don't do it.
that'd be stupid. Like, okay,
You're gonna get kicked. I'm not gonna invite you.
like bro, you could barely avoid mechanics because you're too slow.
Yeah.
That's like that's obviously an extreme example, but it's really the same thing.
Yeah, I
Get
think
down.
it's a very good straightforward way of putting it. That like, yeah, because I mean, also like in like a pug group or a pickup group is what they're called, where you just get random people together that you don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know how good you are at the game. So like I can't base you off of skill. I'm just gonna base you off of, oh, this guy, if this guy's running optimal healer, he knows how to heal, probably, right?
At least
He cared enough to look up a guide.
Yeah.
Compared to the guy who's just running whatever the heck they think is fun. So like, yeah, you need to avoid homogenization with your classes just by like walling them off, you know? Like, okay, I mean like as long as they're somewhat balanced, it should be fine. That's the way most MMOs have done it. That's the way I think it's always worked best.
And then there's also okay, so I definitely think that you have your class you're picking at the front, but then there's the I didn't really say it right. I did say the Holy Trinity, which what this is means that when you go into a dungeon or when you go into a raid, there's three types of people. You have your tanks who are soaking damage, you have your DPS who are doing damage, and you have your healers who are keeping everyone alive.
Mm-hmm.
I like that setup.
Me too.
I don't like where everyone's like kind of hybrid. Everyone's DPSing or there's like literally no healers because everyone heals themselves.
Mhm.
Or there's no tank because it just keeps swapping damage. I feel like I really like the Holy Trinity where it's those three, and I think that should also be carried forward into the Riot MMO.
I completely agree. It's the reason why I do not. It's literally the only reason why I don't like Guild Wars 2 is because
I never played Guild Wars 2.
well, in that game, there's like maybe one tank, and you have to specifically spec all of your talents and everything into becoming a tank if you want to tank. And even then, you're not really tanking. You don't have aggro. You're just using a lot of defensive stuff to keep everyone around you more defensive, to take less damage.
And then you had DPS with some defensive buffs.
Everyone in the game is a DPS.
Yeah, I don't.
And then you have like your sword of healers, just like I have your sword of tank. You have your sword of healers. You can very closely spec into healing throughout your time playing the game. But even at the beginning, if you want to play a healer, you're starting off as a DPS character that you spec into healing. So it's just like, yeah, and I'm like, but now I feel like we're not working together. We're all just pushing our buttons.
Yeah, you are.
That's what the Holy Trinity does. The Holy Trinity makes you feel like you are cooperating and you all need each other to succeed. Otherwise, it's just like, well, we need these many people because bigger number of people means bigger damage.
Yeah.
And that's not fun because then that's literally like, why not just have a bunch of NPCs? It's going to be the same. It's going to be the same experience.
And it's not even just tank, healer, DPS. Like, there's also it's basically almost support, defensive, support, healer.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
tank is a support. Tank should be a support, right?
there's that
I don't
support
like if
role.
tank is just a DPS with more health.
Yeah, like that support role is more what I'm talking about. That's the role I like to fill, and that's the role you like to fill too.
Yeah, I love tanking.
You like
Tanking
tanking,
is so much fun.
yeah, and I like healing. So I feel like those roles are more they're support roles, and that's what I like about them is that they're
Yeah, they're
not
purely like a like you really can't do much on your own as a healer. You
no
really can't do much on your own as a tank. You're there for the
to
other
help the
people.
group.
Yeah, you are there purely for everyone else.
Mhm.
You are not there for you, you know? Like it's really really cool in that sense. You're forced to rely on other people.
Yeah,
And I like that in any MMO because that's why I'm there. I'm there for other people. That's why I'm playing an MMO.
I-
And it just feels very cool to have that complete unit, you know? It's
Yeah.
very satisfying to see all the gears turning, everything working together as one big powerful thing.
because you're a team.
Yeah, you're
That
a
makes you a
team.
team. Like the Holy Trinity is basically saying
so
you
true.
need three different people to
Doing
get
very
this
different
done.
things.
They can't be all the same.
Mm-hmm.
You have
Yep.
to have different people, and everyone has their own task, own role during the fight that everyone's worried about. Like I'm doing my thing,
Yeah.
I'm doing my part.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that part's different than your part, you need both to complete. I don't know. It makes me feel like a group. Like okay, that's a group.
Yeah. I completely agree.
But speaking of that too,
Mm-hmm.
so now you have this group, right?
Mhm.
Everyone's there. Everyone's in the dungeon. Everyone's in the raid. I understand that like you have different communication tools. Like you sure you can get a group together and say, "Hey, come on my Discord." Probably not going to happen. Okay.
Scream in general chat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's you can type, but if you're playing the game and it's like a high key or something or high doing something intense,
Yeah.
like really high level content, you're probably not gonna be able to type your messages while doing it.
Yeah.
Then there's the voice chat in the game. Okay, not everyone's gonna join the voice chat because people are just maybe someone's playing in their freaking living room or they just don't like they don't want to talk on the mic. They're just playing a game.
Yeah.
You know,
very true.
they're playing on the couch. Not everyone wants to join voice chat, even if
Mhm.
you have voice chat implemented in the game. That's why you actually suggested this a while
Yeah.
ago. You were saying that they need to have some kind of system in place.
Yes, we need emotes. Emotes are very important because you'd be surprised how many people don't want to talk in an MMO. This is how they communicate with you. The number of times I've ran around in literally any MMO, Final Fantasy 14, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 11. Every time you're going to see people who talk purely through emotes, such as their character's going to wave when they see you, their character's going to bow as a thank you. Stuff like that is insanely important. I would like to see this taken to the next level in
Yeah.
MMO. And I think Runeterra can do it. I think World of Warcraft has a sort of like voice line thing. I'm sure you know of like how when your character, yeah, if you do like /charge, /for the alliance, like
Yeah.
for the horde, that kind of stuff. I would like to see that taken to the next level to where in a dungeon I can just click a button and my character will say a voice line, you know?
I really like the way they do it in Overwatch, to be honest.
Overwatch is a really good example.
A lot of
because yeah, you got the emote wheel.
Yeah.
I hope they do that. I hope they
or
do the emote
Apex
wheel.
Legends does it very well too, where
Yeah.
it's like this you communicate with your team, but your character is talking.
Mhm.
And you're like it's a kind of a wheel, like you ping enemy here, like
Yeah.
or resources here.
Pinging is insanely important.
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff too. I think emotes are even more important for RP a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you need some good emotes for RP.
Yeah, and then there's also like this. I want to be able to communicate with everyone without having to communicate with everyone. And I think the ping system and like that kind of thing where you're able to kind of scroll wheel and your character they hear it instead of just seeing it.
Yeah, yeah. As
that-
long as like your like default chat message of like attack here or whatever the heck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
moving in 3, 2, 1. Oh man, no add-ons.
No add-ons. Oh boy. I mean, hey, that's where stuff like pinging and everything like that comes in. World of Warcraft just recently added pinging.
Yeah,
Which,
they
by the
did.
way, like I feel like like if you don't like play too many like competitive games, pinging is just like you can put like a marker on the map telling people what to look at, where to look at.
Mhm.
Especially for like enemies and things like that. If you don't if you want someone to like attack a certain enemy first because they're the most dangerous, just ping that enemy.
Yeah.
Or put a skull symbol over their head.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. That's insanely important. There's so many forms of communication in MMO, and all of it needs to be really fast and
Yeah.
obvious to just like visually tell what's going on, to
Exactly.
communicate with other people, especially if you're in the middle of doing your rotation and you're just watching your health drop and you're like, dear God, someone save me. You can't just start typing.
Heal me.
Yeah.
But then there's the point where it
I
can get
need
annoying
healing.
and you should have obviously can mute it like someone says, heal me, heal me, heal me, heal me.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so like spam pinging the tank because they accidentally pulled an extra pack.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Maybe I don't know. They could figure out like the time gain thing, but the important thing is that the system needs to be implemented with the pinging, with the emotes for like, I really like the high five one you said in Final Fantasy.
Oh, that's in Sky Children of the Light. That's a bit of a niche MMO, but I love it so much.
Oh,
my
that's
God.
what it is.
Yeah, yeah. So I love the idea of like cooperative, like multi-person emotes, which I think is especially important for things like RP or when you just like accomplish little things. So one thing I brought up is that like in Sky, you have a high five emote, which when you use it, your character just freezes in a position with their hand up in the air. And then if you walk up to them, there's a little button prompt over their head. If you push that button, you and the other person high five. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Because
see,
then
that's
it's
cool.
like accomplishing little things becomes so much more exciting when someone raises their hand up. You're like, yeah, dude. Yeah. And you high five or you like hug, that kind of stuff. I'm surprised how much it does for feels personal.
Yeah.
It feels like personal communication compared to just your average like wave emote or your bow emote for just like thank you and hi or jumping a billion times to say a billion different things.
Yeah, because you're actually interacting with the other player.
Yeah, it feels like you are talking to that person, you're emailing that person specifically, and you see that interaction happen.
Yeah.
I never realized how much of a difference it made till I played Sky. But
Oh.
like we need those. I
I
think
want it to
those are
go
so
far.
cool.
Like I want it to be like if someone's
Yeah.
sitting at a campfire and they're cooking.
Yeah,
You go sit at the campfire and then the other person will literally grab some soup and put it in their hand and offer it to you and you could literally say no or yes and take the soup.
dude. Yeah, that's literally
Like
the kind of
that's
stuff
how
that Sky
far I want it
does,
to
and I
go.
love it.
Like,
Yeah,
little stuff like that is you press
yeah.
that.
I want full like interaction trees.
Yeah,
exactly. Like
exactly.
how the interaction plays out.
Man, we might be asking for too much. I don't feel like that's too much. Okay,
Honestly, I don't think it is.
I'm not asking too much.
I mean, that's mostly just like on the animation side of things, especially with or one thing I freaking love is that the races are gonna be so different in Runeterra.
Mhm.
I think most MMOs have that issue where a lot of their characters look a lot of the races look very similar for obvious reasons, right? Their rig is gonna be the same, the skeleton's gonna be the same, so when they're animating, there's doing one animation for all the races.
Mhm.
But World of Warcraft is the only example where they beat that status quo, and I love it.
Yeah,
It's my like literally one of, if not my favorite thing about World of Warcraft for as an MMO. So the races are varied. They're gonna have that same thing going on in Runeterra too. With obviously like Yordles better be playable, right? No way they're not gonna be playable.
no, you're.
I refuse to believe that Yordles will not be playable. Their skeletons gonna be very different from the average race in Runeterra, which means the animations for things like emotes are going to be a little more varied for sure. They're probably gonna have to reanimate entire emotes. Like they're not all gonna be doing the same exact wave. They
Yeah.
better have some flavor to each rate
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. So I think stuff like that obviously is going to take up a little bit more development time for each emote, especially if you're doing those interactions. But God, do I hope they do it because it adds so much. Like you don't believe it until you see it, until you're in game and you're doing that kind of thing. It's so much fun, and it just makes every connection that much more special when you're playing.
I do wonder when the races come. So Yordles are easy.
Yeah,
Right. They can be a couple
an
different
obvious one.
variations of the Yordle shape. Same thing with humans. You know, you have some taller humans, shorter humans, maybe some pudgy humans, whatever.
Yeah.
Humans and Yordles, I feel like, are very straightforward. Vistaya are a very wide breadth of people.
Oh,
Like they're very different. You have people like you have Vistaya tribe with wings that can fly.
oh wow.
All the way down to Vistaya tribe with fins that swim deep under the ocean.
I did not know that. I did
Yeah.
not know they're flying Vistaya. What the heck? I always assumed they were just the fish people.
No, yeah. So the Vistaya all come from Vistaya Shire, which is like they took this is like the history. We don't actually know this stuff, but this is like the history that we think is true. After the Rune Wars, pretty much all history got wiped off the face of the earth because of like nuclear fallout.
Mm-hmm.
But the history that we have right now is supposedly they came from Vistaya Shire, which is they were during the Titan War. They were fighting Titans from the sky,
Mm-hmm.
and they took in the spirit realm into them, these enlightened mortals, and they became Vistaya Shire. After the war, they they started living their lives. Let's say they mated with a human or some other creature.
Oh, that's what leads to
that
these
Every
variations.
single Vistaya tribe today can lead its origins to like a Vastaya Shirei. For
Yeah.
example, one of the Vastaya Shirei had wings, and so that eventually branched off into these like tribes. All these 4 different tribes have wings, and they all
Oh.
originate from this single Vastaya Shirei that happened to have wings.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then so like the one of them swam, and so all the swimming Vistayan tribes today in the oceans or wherever,
Mhm.
they all can link their origin back to that single Vastaya Shirei that happened to be like a swimming Vastaya Shirei.
Oh wow. Actually, I don't even think I've seen a picture of a Vastaya yet. Do they have like?
Nami's a Vastaya.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So I mean,
she's like the mermaid person in the Mariah territory.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, there's like a chameleon Vastaya and Ishchal in Bilgewater, or well, not really in Bilgewater, but from Camivore in that book. There's like
Mhm.
an otter Vastaya.
Yeah.
There's Vastaya
Okay.
everywhere.
Oh, I see.
They're all over the world and they're different kind of in
Mhm.
different tribes.
Huh.
So that's why I'm saying like I don't know how they're gonna do it.
Yeah. It's like if I had to guess, they probably wouldn't vary them too crazy. Like obviously you're not gonna be like a mermaid Vastaya, I don't
No,
think,
no,
you know?
that'd be tough. What are you gonna?
Yeah, I don't know what the heck they're gonna do with that.
Well, you're gonna be your
Like
mermaid, and there's gonna
slither
be
around.
you have 2 people that carry your
Giant
bathtub.
fishbowl.
Yeah, your
Yeah, yeah.
fishbowl.
No, I mean, like, yeah, they could just do like they're gonna have that one default
Rigged.
Vistaya rig, yeah, and then they just add, like the chameleon look to it, or they add the wings to it,
You kind of choose
and
your
you use,
option.
yeah, and you have, hopefully you can't do both because that would just be immersion breaking as all. You better not be a flying chameleon,
Yeah,
you know, unless that's a possible thing.
yeah,
But I definitely see that happening where it's kind of just like customization. You just decide what tribe you want to be RP
I
wise.
like that. I
Yeah.
like that. So you kind of like you can customize your Vastaya a little bit to be from the tribe that you want it to be a part of.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I do it with the Magar orcs
Mm,
in World of Warcraft,
that's true.
where Magar orcs,
Oh
they have
yeah.
all sorts of different skin colors and tattoos and stuff. And you just pick a skin color that matches that like type of look that you want or what tribe you want to be part of.
Man, I'm so excited for this MMO.
Yeah.
I've never been so excited for a game in my life. And I hate to ride the copium this hard, but I'm like hot on copium at this point. I'm too excited for it. I mean, obviously I care a lot about the lore, and so that maybe is contributing to it. But I've
Yeah.
played World of Warcraft for a long time,
Hmm.
and I never knew as much as I know already about like Runeterra.
Oh yeah, I bet. I mean, after your catalog of videos.
Yeah. One thing about it, so I really like to read. And so that's really what initially got me into Runeterra is I just like reading personally. I like reading books. I worked in a library for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like my way to absorb content. My favorite way to absorb content is reading.
Yeah, I agree. In
And
terms of like long stories, like long format, like overarching
yeah,
like events and things like that. Yeah, I agree. I
like
think reading's a really good way to get a story across.
the thing is, so that's what initially got me into Runeterra lore because I just started reading stuff on their website and reading the zones and the stories. Then I got like Realms of Runeterra, the book, and then I was like, oh, there's another book called Ruination. So I got that and I started reading it.
Yeah.
And that's what got me into the Runeterra lore was reading. But a
Mhm.
lot of people don't want to read.
Yeah.
And that's not like they even said that's not the best way to distribute content to the player base.
Hmm.
And so they're trying to look for other forms of ways to get that content out. I've tried to make it pretty digestible on my channel,
I
like
think you
making
definitely have.
videos for short stories and stuff, and
Mhm.
animating it and doing voices for like different characters. Um, I really liked in Battle for Azeroth. The one good thing that I thought was in that expansion was
Yeah.
like the cinematics.
Oh yeah.
And I think that may be a way that they're going to go about doing it, but I don't feel like you can do cinematics for everything. Like I feel like cinematics tend to be very disjointed when you because they're for a specific scene, so you can't tell the whole story about the game through cinematics. And so I think
Yeah.
they might even do like I really like Arcane, the Netflix series.
Mhm.
Like, that's an amazing way to tell the story. Riot Forge is a great way to tell the story.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering like what's their strategy here? Like if you're not going to do these stories and these books, because even the Blizzard team does a book for every expansion almost.
Hmm.
So what ways can they introduce new players to the lore who have no experience to the lore whatsoever? I'm gonna do a video that's like introducing new players to the lore from scratch. But what's the best strategy for Riot going forward for this? For
Yeah.
introducing new players to lore, it's tough.
That's a very good question. Because I mean, obviously, the nice thing about short stories and books and stuff is that it's way less like expensive in terms of time and money for them,
Mhm.
which means they can put out more.
Yeah,
Right. That means more lore, more setup for big events, more setup for everything that's going to be happening in the MMO. But yeah, at the end of the day, how many people are going to enjoy that compared to a Riot Forge game or a cinematic? But then those things are just going to be way more expensive. Um, I mean, obviously they can't tell everything that's going to happen in the MMO. You know, you got to leave some stuff there for the MMO to happen at its own, like inside the game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's tough. They definitely can't do like cinematics, I don't think.
It's too hard. Like, you can't just do
Yeah,
cinematics, try to tell the
like
whole story.
yeah, exactly. Like yeah, like Battle for Azeroth, the way they did it was like they told one character's story, and they really only told the major events of that character's story, of that character's arc, Sarfang.
Yeah.
Right?
If you
That
watch
was his
them
whole
all,
thing.
you can get like an idea of where the story was, but you won't get the full story. You'll just understand like, okay, this happened and this happened, this happened, this happened. But
Yep, that's exactly how
you're
it
missing so
works.
much in the middle that you're kind of like those just they're disjointed at the end of the day.
Yeah, you're missing what leads him to these places and these how he is like emotionally. You know, you're missing those transitionary periods.
Yeah.
You just kind of see the big moments.
And you have
So cinematics don't
Arcane.
really work in that sense.
Yeah. And you have Arcane, which is like, okay, that's a full story though.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, that
that's
leaves
also like
nothing for the Riot MMO. Like, you want to be able to get some story in the Riot MMO.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's also why I always come back to Warcraft 3 because that was the most perfect setup for MMO I've ever seen in my life. You
Yeah.
play as the villain, you see his motives, you see everything about him, and in the end, it still feels like okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Like you love that story, you love everything that happens in it. It ends with a big climactic, conclusive battle, but then you still know the Lich King is there. The final cinematic is him putting on the crown, becoming the Lich King, and he's just sitting there on his throne, waiting for what's to come. And it's like, oh, dude, stuff like that is so impactful, and that leads to such amazing things going on in the MMO later on. So, like with Riot Forge games, I hope they do something like that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hope they still have their own story, but they still leave some loose ends
Yeah.
to tie up in the MMO. That's what I'm hoping Riot Forge is there for, honestly. I'm hoping Riot Forge becomes
Song of
Warcraft 3.
Nunu, definitely an open end on the end of it. The Mage Seeker, definitely an open end.
Good.
Rune King is definitely open ended, even though we do
Oh,
see
yeah, that's
Diego going
right.
forward.
Yeah.
Convergence. Convergence is kind of like its own. It does have an open end, but
Mhm.
it's very much like its own. So I don't
Yeah, it
think
feels very,
Convergence is going to be canon. I
really?
think it's canon, but only it's in a different timeline because so Convergence at the end when you see it was spoiler. Fast forward a little bit if you don't want to be spoiled. But at the end of Convergence, Echo's future self flips through a bunch of portals of different timelines, and one of them shows Arcane. And they already said Arcane is canon. So
Ah.
that's the timeline that we're on for the Riot MMO, in my opinion, because I think that's what the canon timeline is. The whole point of it's for the Riot MMO. And
Yeah.
one of the timelines that he sees is he sees
So it's not his timeline, is what you're saying.
yeah, that timeline that Convergence is in is not the same timeline that we're in.
Yeah, so that's not the Echo that we
Have.
know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I really like that, actually.
Yeah, so I hope it's still canon, but Echo's he's literally the boy who shattered time.
Yeah.
So I hope that in some way, like it's still canon. It's just
Yeah,
on a
I
different
mean, yeah,
timeline.
it is canon, but it's not gonna like be as impactful as the other stories in the Riot MMO or in Runeterra in general. It's just not as impactful because it's not the timeline that we see all the time.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, like it's still canon, just not as impactful to the world as a whole.
Yeah.
But that's still really cool. I like how they can do that because that means they can make all sorts of crazy stories.
Yeah, in that timeline.
Yeah. I mean, and, like, of course, I'm sure at some point we're going to meet Echo, and I wouldn't be surprised if we can do some timeline shenanigans at some point.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully nothing too crazy. I don't want to, start invalidating everything by just being like, oh yeah, in this timeline, everyone that died, yeah, they're still alive, they're still here.
No.
That kind of stuff. Like, don't find excuses to like, don't be lazy with the timeline stuff. Make it interesting. Don't make it like a cop out.
I really liked Convergence Echo though. Like in Arcane Echo, they don't really explore him enough, so I can't say whether I like him or not. Like he might have parents and stuff. We don't really know his backstory.
Oh yeah, that's right. That
Yeah,
explains that a little bit better, right?
yeah.
The whole parents thing.
I liked in Convergence, he has like parents and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. like Echo is the one person that you could actually get away with. He's hopping around timelines because we could actually see this Echo from Convergence one day in our timeline, which would be cool.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
And that'll make that Convergence canon. And maybe he can come from our timeline and he'll meet our Echo and our like that sounds cool to me. Just don't take away Convergence because I loved that game so much. I thought it was such a good game. The story was great, and I liked that version of Echo. So I hope that maintains its canonity.
Yeah, canonacity. Yeah,
its canonacity is.
Yeah, I'm fully expecting Riot Forge to become their main avenue for storytelling. I hope that's the case,
and I hope it continues.
Yeah,
even during the Riot MMO.
It better continue through the Riot MMO. It better set up future content for the Riot MMO as it goes on. That's
every single game you have, like, okay, you have the expansion, and then there's a Riot Forge title that comes out that kind of hints at the next, like, tells you some story that's required for the next expansion. I know that's kind of a dead giveaway. Maybe we could do 2 expansions earlier, but even that, like, maybe people catch out to it. But same time,
at the very least, just to establish things that maybe people don't know that much about yet, just to flesh things out further, just the world as a whole. Because I'm like that's what Warcraft 3 did.
Yeah,
right? It did not only did it set up the Lich King for 2 expansions of World of Warcraft, he becomes a villain that we have to fight off, but it also establishes like a lot of Night Elf lore. It establishes the fall of Lordaeron, which is insanely important to set up the undead and the Forsaken.
Yeah.
Like, and of course the orcs moving to Kalimdor and recruiting the Tauren and the trolls. So I think Riot Forge is a really great way to move Runeterra forward when it needs to. It's a great way to change what's like the current state of the world, to move things around in a way that's not just like, oh, your character's just kind of standing there and things are happening. Your character's just there for it all, I guess. I feel like the MMO should be there to lead to these big climactic battles and things like that. But in terms of like raw storytelling, I think the best storytelling should come from the Riot Forge games, not from the MMO. That's just my opinion. I think, like we say, the world is the main character. I don't think Echo should be the main character of like an entire expansion in the Riot MMO, right? It should be Zon. Zon should be the main character of that expansion, not Echo.
Exactly.
Compared to Convergence, where of course Echo is the main character and he should be.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And then you explore Echo and Riot Forge, and that title. So when you get to Zon, he doesn't need to be fleshed out as much.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to go through all this exposition and stuff. No, just explore Zon. Enjoy the characters that are there. Enjoy all that flavor.
You already know it.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you can just go deeper.
Yeah.
With the Riot MMO.
Precisely. Yeah. The Riot MMO should be just further fleshing out this world that already has so much stuff going on in it. That's what I think the Riot Forge games should do. Riot Forge games should be more focused storytelling that push the plot along. And then the Riot MMO is where this world really gets to see its full potential. And you really get to explore all the cool little things about these zones.
Man, I can't wait. I cannot wait. I'm excited. All right. Well, another great episode. We actually still didn't finish all of our topics, and so we'll talk more on those next time.
Always so much. Dude, there's so much we can talk about. Like, see us in episode 172. We'll see you guys there.
Yes. So we'll see you guys in that one. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. We will continue this conversation in the next one right here in the Brazen Hydra pub of Bilgewater. You can find me at Entgrove on socials and YouTube. And Conquest, you have any socials you want to go?
Yeah, you can now finally find me at Conquest95 on Twitter, where I'll be posting all sorts of funny little things.
Yep, and you can follow at the Brazen Hydra on Twitter. And if you have any like questions, answers, story suggestions, feel free to throw those at us in the DM on there. And you can stay up to date for the goings on for this podcast by heading over to the website, thebrazenhydra.com. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next one.